Hey, e-commerce marketing podcast listener. Are you looking to increase traffic and sales to your website? You can do this by launching your own affiliate program. Just visit getosi.com and sign up for a free trial today. That's getosi.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the e-commerce marketing podcast. I am your host, Arlen Robinson, and today we have a very special guest, Kirk Deis, who has been featured on Forbes, podcasts, and radio shows in the U.S. He's the CEO and co-founder of two companies, Treehouse 51, a digital agency in Newport Beach, California, and the Bug Squasher, a universal web app that helps you diagnose site issues. Welcome to the podcast, Kirk. How's it going?
It's going awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, not a problem. Well, today we're going to be talking about something I don't think we've ever talked about here on the podcast before, so I was excited to talk about website bug management. But before we get into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. So a couple of years back, I launched Treehouse 51, it's a digital ad agency, and my background's actually film and screenwriting. Okay. And after film school, I landed some ghostwriting jobs, some copywriting jobs, eventually like working for different ad firms and 9-to-5 jobs. And I still had all these amazing film friend connections. So I thought, wouldn't it be great to combine everybody in one hub where film guys are usually creative and marketing guys are usually data driven. Mm-hmm. So the gimmick was, let's do something where it's data driven and it's backed by creativity. And then from there, we just rolled with it and we launched Treehouse 51. Okay. We do everything under the umbrella of marketing, but primarily what people ask for are websites, videos, email marketing, content creation, right. Those type of services.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Well, yeah, that's awesome. So I take it your agency is really these days, of course, adapted based on the needs that people have. And a lot of it is this digital marketing, the ad creation, and that makes total sense.
Yeah. And from that, we actually had a client where she had a request on her website, and that's where the birth of the Bug Squasher got started. I don't know if we want to talk about that now or kind of jump into that in a few minutes.
Yeah, we can get into that. You know, one of the things, of course, one of the things that we're going to talk about, and that my initial question really is as far as bug management goes, it's not something people typically correlate to marketing and increasing in sales. So how really does bug management correlate to that, and how can someone see an increase in sales if they effectively manage their website issues?
That's a great question. I'm going to answer it with a story. I actually had a lead come to us a couple of weeks ago. Okay. And this company's been around for probably like 10, 12 years or so. Really big company, middle of the States. Mm-hmm. And they sell office space, virtual offices, mailbox, stuff like that. Okay. They come to us and they say, hey, we're thinking about redesigning our website. We're thinking about doing PPC. And, we're really happy with our services, but we're looking for an upgrade. And so the first thing I say is, okay, before we do anything, let me see your Google Analytics. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, you guys are doing a lot, but the data just doesn't add up. Mm-hmm. So as we did some more digging, what we learned was Google Analytics wasn't hooked up properly. It wasn't tracking all their pages. And on top of that, parts of their website were broken. They thought things were working and they weren't working, and they were driving traffic to it and they're paying all this money, and it's just completely missed. Mm-hmm. And I see this happen a lot with a lot of websites, big and small, where they're running a business, they're spending money on ads, they're spending money on marketing, and something's broken, and either nobody catches it in time or nobody recognizes it, or somebody sees it like on Chrome but doesn't realize it's an issue on Firefox too. Mm-hmm. And this is never ending with websites. I've never seen a website be launched and it be 100% complete and perfect forever.
Right.
Like no matter what your site is, something always changes. Something will get upgraded whether you want it to or not. And something will always break whether you want it to or not. So there needs to be someone constantly like managing this and checking it and making sure things are okay. And if you don't have somebody doing that, you need a system in place to be like, oh, something's broken. How do we deal with this? Mm-hmm. So with those people, with that lead, it did cost them thousands of dollars because they were under the impression they were doing things right. And had it been solved earlier, I think they would have saved some money and then probably would have been able to put that money into other goals that they wanted to accomplish.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. With e-commerce companies, you may not typically think of having to address these things. I know a lot of the businesses that I deal with at OmniStar here on a day-to-day basis, a lot of the businesses are using, platforms that are, existing platforms, like the Shopify's, the big commerces and various platforms, WooCommerce. Those are, some of the top ones that I see that they're using. And so, they're maybe using a default template. There's a lot of free templates that are included with that. Yeah. So your main inclination is, once everything is up and running, you've got your products there, you're good to go. There's not really a whole lot else that you need to do or check. You just kind of market and get your products and services out there and don't worry about it. But that's not necessarily the case, because there's definitely things that can go wrong. Like you said, there's probably no site out there that is 100% error-free or bug-free, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think you have to think of a website like a car. Right. So when you get a brand new car, it's perfect. It has no miles on it, but you still take it in every few months for maintenance. Mm-hmm. It still gets those flat tires. There's still that check engine light that comes on after a few years, and you're kind of like, well, do I ignore it or do I address it? Mm-hmm. So that's exactly like with websites. When you launch, you think like everything's great, and usually it is. Usually those templates, they're okay to start with, mm-hmm. but then you start adding more weight to it, adding more plugins, more tools, more pages, more products, and then all of a sudden it's just too much to keep going, and right. Things need to be updated. Right.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's a lesson in what you mentioned with the company that you dealt with earlier that had the issues that they really weren't sure where they were coming from. Is, you can spend all of this money on marketing. You can do a lot of search engine optimization and maybe even pay-per-click marketing, but you can bring all of this traffic to your site. But if they get to the site and then there's all of these issues, it's almost like trying to fill a bucket that has holes in it. There's always going to be leaks, and you're going to be wondering, okay, what's going on here? I'm putting all of this money into the site, all of this marketing dollars into it, but I'm not seeing a return. And so I think a lot of that also you'll be able to see from just the conversion rate optimization. And like you said, you looked at their analytics, and it looked like they should have been making a lot more sales than they were, but they weren't. And so that's when you really need to dig down into the kind of the nitty gritty of the site. Now, so from your experience dealing with different companies, what are really some common bugs or issues that you see specifically on e-commerce sites that really affect sales?
Probably one of the biggest issues that I see is the people running the marketing, running the sales. Okay. So with that example, everybody thought things were going great because nobody was really held accountable to manage this. They thought like, okay, well, we're spending money, it's happening. Okay. Usually leads come to us and they say, I'm doing PPC, I'm not getting the ROI I want, or I have a website, it's not performing how I want. Mm-hmm. And this usually happens because nobody's really watching this stuff. Nobody's really testing it. And I think true marketing is about testing and repetition. Mm-hmm. So what I'd recommend is numbers don't lie, the data never lies. Mm-hmm. So whatever you're doing with your website, just take a moment, make it common practice every month, every couple weeks. Look at Google Analytics, that's a great one. These other sites have their own analytics. I love Google Analytics because it's Google, mm-hmm. and you can get a lot from it. But I strongly recommend look at the data, the numbers don't lie. See what people are going to, see how they're interacting with your website, and see where you're losing them. Right. And then take that, and I want you to ask yourself just one question. And if you get nothing else from this podcast, take this, my one gem that I tell my guys all the time, is what you're doing dumb? Mm. And dumb to us, it stands for doable, understandable, measurable, and beneficial. Mm-hmm. And if what you're doing, if it's not dumb, if it's not a yes on all four of those, you need to pause a minute and you need to address it till it is a yes. Okay. And I guarantee if you can pass the dumb test, you're going to improve your sales, you're going to improve conversions, you're going to improve engagement rates. But the hard part is somebody needs to be held accountable. And usually, like smaller websites, it's a small team. It's one person who's the marketing director, who's right. the PPC guy, who's also, the Twitter dude. Right. So it's you got to dedicate that time. It's really difficult. So yeah, I recommend planning for it and having blocks of time to be like, is my stuff really running the way I think it should be running or the way I expect it to be running?
Yeah, that makes sense. And like you said, there's a lot of businesses out there where the marketing person is the He's the all hands marketing. He does everything from the social media presence to social media posts to, managing the pay-per-click marketing. So whoever's doing it, obviously, most likely their hands are pretty full. And of course, they definitely need to dedicate time, on an ongoing basis to check for these issues. Now, is there anything or any tools that you can recommend that can assist this type of person to analyze the site, or is it more going to be just a lot of manual checking?
I'd recommend for sure Google Analytics, because you'll get a ton of information from that. Google Webmaster Tools. Okay. AdWords just released a new dashboard about a month ago. And it looks visually better. I'm having mixed people say I like it more and I don't like it more.
Right.
So I think it's just a preference. I think another one that I really like, and this is another free tool that we use all the time, is called Screaming Frog.
Yes, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, that's a great one where it'll tell you a bunch of information about your website. That's really good for audits. And then another great paid tool, Ahrefs. That's another one just to see how your SEO is doing. I'd be careful about just buying tools just to buy them and think that, okay, now that I have this tool, now I have the solution to solve the problem.
Right.
Usually you can figure stuff out with just Google Analytics. You can look at it and be like, okay, I have a 90% bounce rate on my homepage. Something's wrong and I need to address it.
Gotcha.
But the hard part about that is once you have that realization, you have to address it.
Right.
And I've had so many conversations with leads and clients who are like, the data doesn't lie. This page isn't performing. We need to change it. But in order to change it, we need to redevelop the landing page, or we need a new design, or need a new tool. So all of that adds up. And that's, for some businesses, companies, owners, that's kind of scary, the prices for that.
Right. Now, of course, we're talking a lot about addressing issues on site, on a e-commerce business's website. But how much of this actually needs to be carried over to, let's say, there's social media platforms? Of course, we're dealing with fixed platforms where, there's limited things that you can do with regards to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and, some of the other ones. But the person that, let's say, is designated, let's say the marketing person, the marketing guy that's designated for managing this, and now, he takes on the responsibility for analyzing the site and looking for issues. How much needs to be done with respect to social media? Is there certain things that can affect sales and marketing as a whole if there's issues on these platforms? Is that something that you guys look at as well when you're dealing with companies?
Absolutely. So one thing I always tell people is quality score. Are you familiar with that?
A little bit. Why don't you enlighten us though a little bit in more detail?
So quality score, when you run ads on AdWords, Facebook, Twitter, you run these ads. We'll talk about AdWords because I think AdWords is more driven for sales. Social media is more social. So AdWords, when you set up your ads and launch them, AdWords gives you a quality score out of 10. So 0 is failing, 10 is perfect.
Okay. And
they grade you on a bunch of factors. They grade you on the keywords you're targeting, the ad copy you're using, your landing page, your website speed. So if your e-commerce site has issues, know that, and you're running ads to them, whether it's AdWords, Facebook, Twitter, anything, know that there is a quality score behind those ads. And you could actually be getting less traffic and spending more money because you're not addressing the quality score. So what I'd recommend is, with AdWords, it's really easy to see. With Facebook, it's easy to see. They have these quality score metrics. Look at them and see how can you improve your quality score. Because if you can improve it, you'll pay less for your cost per click, for your impressions overall. You'll also get more traffic and more leads. Okay. So these platforms, they want to take your money. Facebook wants your money. Right. But they also understand, it took them a lot of money, a lot of time to get the audiences. So if all things being equal, if you're running ads and your competitor's running ads, the one who gives the user the better experience, they're the ones who get priorities. Right. So I look at quality score, updating these site bugs, solving them, squashing them will help address that if you're doing any ad spend.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, that really makes a lot of sense because, like you said, they want to take your money, but at the same, it's always a fine line with these social media platforms because, of course, they're businesses, they've got to make money. But at the same time, if you're not successful, you're going to you're going to bow out. You can only spend so much and not have a return. So they have to have those types of tools in place to, incentivize you for, improving the quality of what it is that you're putting out there. So that really makes a lot of sense. Now, with respect to the things that you do on these different platforms, how much do you think this bug management really should carry over to marketing verbiage and marketing creatives with even respects to the graphics that you're creating for these different platforms, and like how far into it do you really need to go?
Well, my vision with the bug squasher is that it becomes standard. Mm-hmm. I've been working on websites in different respects for years now. It never occurred to me until, a few months ago that there wasn't a tool like this. Mm-hmm. It really hurt my heart because it would have saved me so much pain if there was.
Right.
And the thing is, what I said before, sites are always changing. There's always like, can we change that image? Can we change the copy? This page is broken. Right. This chart isn't working properly. So with the bug squasher, what I'm really pushing for in the long term is that when you get a website, you no longer send your team, your marketing team, developer, anybody. You no longer send them an email, text message, Skype. Mm-hmm. You just click on the bug squasher and you say, hey, this is what I want to change. This is the bug. And then they manage it from there. Okay. And you're able to see the status of it, the report of it.
Okay, wow.
So it's all about streamlining communication. It's all about making it easier to diagnose these issues and solve them, mm-hmm. which in return, what does that do for you? Well, if you own a website, let's say you don't have the budget to have a full-time web developer managing your site. Mm-hmm. That happens more than often. More than often, people are like, I just need a site, and then when I need help, I will reach out to you. Mm-hmm. Well, if you have a tool like this, you could just say like, oh, I found something when I was on my phone. Let me report it to my developer guy, mm-hmm. or let me report it to my graphic designer guy, or whomever you want to report it to. Mm-hmm. So it's all about making that communication easier versus how do we do it now? Right now, what people do is they send you these emails, which it's really easy to forget, these Skype messages, calls. Mm-hmm. If you're managing an e-commerce website and you get a call from a client, it's going to ruin your day because you're like, oh, crap. This, if they're calling, they're upset.
Right.
So you don't want it to ever escalate to that. You want your clients and yourself and everybody around you to be like, this was easy. Mm-hmm. We have more time. We're able to make more money. We're saving money.
Right. Right. Yeah, I really like that because a lot of it is, you're able to go through, let's say somebody's designated to take the time to go through these things. And that's good. That's what every business should be doing to uncover these issues to help improve their sales. But a lot of it really has to do with communicating those issues and documenting them for the people that are going to resolve them. Because like you said, sending emails to a developer and Skype, there's always things that can get lost in the mix. There's a lot of back and forth, and it's just not efficient. So you're having an efficient way to communicate these things and keep track of the status of them, I think is really key. So that's very important. Now
we actually have a new feature that we're going to be implementing with the bug squasher that will probably go live by the time this show's live. Mm-hmm. I keep telling the guys, like, how can we make it easier? How can we make this, we have it down to you just click it and we can see what browser you're on, what type of device, your IP address, mm-hmm. the web console issues for your developers. You can assign it. But then I was like, how can we do it even easier? And we were talking about it. I'm like, and we said, like, the next level is, what if a user could just hit record, mm-hmm. and they could record their screen, and you could say, I need you to change this, and it captures the screen, the audio, and still all that other information.
Okay.
So that's going to be being released in the next couple of weeks. We're going to be including the ability for users to upload screenshots, mm-hmm. Screenshot the page, and just video record on their screen what the issue is.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's really interesting. That would definitely be a very powerful add-on, I'm sure, for what you're doing, because a lot of when you're communicating different things, a lot of times it's just so much easier to be able to just record your screen and kind of walk through something, especially if there's several clicks involved. There's several areas of the site you have to go through rather than to, maybe take the individual screenshots and write it up. Then, the recording would definitely help. Now, one of the things I try to always leave my listeners with is just some quick takeaways for somebody that's listening, that's is really anxious now to do some quick fixes. What are some quick fixes that you've seen that they could easily resolve quickly that'll, benefit their sales?
Some things I'd recommend to look at to start off with is, where are you hosting your website? A lot of times I see a lot of clients who spend all this money developing their website and spend money getting a really great graphic designer and spend thousands on PPC, and then they use GoDaddy as hosting, and I'm like, why?
Right. And
it's shared hosting. We actually, when we first started, we had this client. It was years ago. We had this client, and they were like, I don't understand why my SEO is so bad. And we're looking at the analytics, and we're getting all this traffic from porn sites. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how is this happening? And so long story short, as we got to digging, we found out that they were using a shared hosting plan, which didn't make sense for a company this size. Mm-hmm. And on the shared hosting plan, there was a bunch of porn sites.
Oh, wow.
And so what one of the people did on there was somehow they got into everybody else's site, mm-hmm. and they put in these backlinks within their site.
Oh,
and so they were driving SEO juice to their porn site. Oh, and it was really elaborate, but it was just like, well, you get what you pay for, kind of thing.
Right.
So look at that. I would really recommend, think of your website is a house and the server is the land. You're going to be on that land for a long time. So it's okay to spend money on hosting. You get what you pay for. Also, shared hosting, cheaper hosting, usually they're slower. Mm-hmm. And Google and search engines, they really value speed and things happening quickly. So just keep that in mind. Usually higher end servers, you'll get more bang for your buck. Servers to look at that we often use are Amazon, Rackspace, and lately we've been using this server called Pantheon.
Okay.
So if anybody wants to check out those, I have no connections with them. They do have like affiliate programs, but I've said no just because. But definitely I recommend checking those ones out. I'd avoid GoDaddy. Okay. We used to use Bluehost a lot, but it's their support is just terrible.
Okay.
So I'd avoid Bluehost. So I'd look at that. Other stuff to look at is we talked about Google Analytics, making sure that data is solid. And then also, what are you doing on an ongoing basis? So e-commerce websites, they have their products, they have the site set up, and they're doing marketing. They're pushing ads to their site. They're maybe even creating blogs or videos. That's good, but remember you have to be testing.
Right.
So what I'd recommend is say, we're going to test this. They usually say 90 days. You don't always need 90 days. Sometimes it's 30, sometimes it's 60, sometimes it's 120. But I really recommend whatever you do, have several tests going on. Mm-hmm. And then pick winners and let the data decide who the winner is.
Okay.
I can't tell you how many times I've met with clients and they're like, I want to do this because this is what I think is going to work.
Right.
What you think doesn't matter if it's costing you money and losing your money. Mm-hmm. So you got to look at that data. You have to. And it's really, really hard to be like, wow, this was wrong. And the data says I should do this. I should try this. Follow the data. Let it do the work for you.
Yeah, that's so very true, so very important. Database decisions will definitely go more than just, like you said, just doing what you think is right. You just have to let the data speak and dictate everything that you're doing. I mean, yeah, those are some great tips, especially with regards to the web hosting. I wouldn't have necessarily thought about that, but that makes total sense as far as share hosts versus some of the more dedicated server options, especially if you're a site and that you're getting a fair amount of traffic, you're doing a fair amount of sales. Spend that extra money because it'll definitely pay for it if you're on a more solid host, as a faster host and more dedicated, more reliable servers. So that's awesome. Kirk, I really appreciate everything that you've provided us, all the information. I think is going to go a long way with our listeners. And I'd like to close things out with one question. We'll kind of switch gears here. It's kind of a closing fun fact question. What's one thing that our audience would be surprised to know about you?
I think one thing that's always surprises people, like clients and even the team, is that I'm open to failure. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is we're all humans. We all make mistakes. Things happen, things slip by, disasters come, and things just don't work out the way we want them to work out.
Right.
And usually people have different reactions to this. They freak out, they cry, they try to learn from it. The number one thing you have to do when that happens is do something. Mm-hmm. What I often see with clients in every aspect is they want to do something, but everybody's scared to make a move. They're scared that what if this doesn't work? Mm-hmm. What if this costs money? What if we just leave things as they are and change nothing? Mm-hmm. That's usually where that conversation goes. So one thing that I always push that I tell clients is don't be afraid of failure. be open to it. Be open to trying these different things and seeing where it goes. The worst thing you can do is not do anything. And I guarantee a lot of our listeners for e-commerce sites, they're probably coasting on their current site. They're probably like, we're doing the sales, we're doing the ads, we're doing what needs to be done. But just remember, there is that person, there is that competition, there is that guy next door who's like, I'm going to do everything you did, plus 2 more things.
Right, exactly. There's always someone that's going to do more than you are doing. So, yeah, that's a great piece of advice. Fear is something that definitely holds a lot of businesses back, and people get comfortable and are sometimes, just afraid of, like you said, just afraid of failing and don't want to try things. But
and it's hard. Like, who do you trust? Like, I have so many talks with people where they're like, well, okay, so we need a developer. Well, where do we find that developer? How do we trust that developer? So it's especially with like site development, the world and the market now has become a site of like Fiverr and Wix, where it's like, who do we trust? Do we trust the Indian freelancer? Do we trust the US guy? Do we trust the template? So but for those situations, what I recommend is ask a lot of questions and see samples and portfolios.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely, I've definitely been there, and yeah, you've got to ask those questions up front for sure. Okay, great. Well, thanks for sharing that, Kirk. Really appreciate it, and we appreciate you being on the e-commerce marketing podcast today. If any of our listeners want to get in contact with you, how do they do it?
I actually think the best way to find us is through the website. But I'm going to leave you guys with a little fun quest if you're interested. With the Bug Squasher, if you look up the Bug Squasher on YouTube, look up the Bug Squasher rap video, you'll find a rap video that we made. And it will give you a sense of what Treehouse 51 is about, how we do marketing, and I'll also talk to you about the Bug Squasher. And through there, you can find out how to contact us, which is all just through the website. Just go to the website and hit contact us. And if you want to talk to me, just say, hey, I need to talk to Kirk, and the guys will assign it to me. Okay. But I think that'll be more of like, do I really want to talk to this guy? So you can listen to a song, and if you like it, you'll be like, okay, let's talk.
Okay, great. That's awesome. Well, I'll definitely be sure to check out that rap video. You've definitely piqued my interest, and I'm sure the interest of our listeners. But for those of you that don't have it, it'll be in the show notes. Their link to their site is actually treehouse51.com, treehouse51.com. All right. Well, thanks again, Kirk, and that has been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the e-commerce marketing podcast. You need to get more feedback and reviews from your customers and improve your customer retention? We have made it easy to do all of this with our advanced customer feedback software. Just visit getosi.com/feedback and sign up for a free trial today. That's getosi.com/feedback.